Alright, hello y'all. Yes, it is your man, the Cozy Representative, back again. Super happy to be talking to you guys today because we've got some awesome news within the scene. It's been a really good time for the sort of, the aged adult emo folk lately. There's a lot of cool things happening. I mean, just the other day, Armor for Sleep announced a 15-year anniversary of their album, What to Do When You're Dead. That's super fucking dope. All Time Low have been releasing, like, their best music in years, I want to say. Amongst just countless other things. I feel like every other day there's a new either reunion or a new song that's awesome by some bands that like I loved when I was 14 or whatever. And today, in the last couple days, that is no different because motherfucking D.R.U.G.S, Destroy, Rebuild Until God shows are back with a new single. And apparently new music to come after this too. Super exciting. It is the first time Craig Owens has really done any like rock music, I guess, by himself. I know he's produced some rock acts in recent years, but mostly as far as his own music, he's been doing his more R&B style, kind of The Weeknd-esque Project Bad Channels. He hasn't really done any, sort of rock Warped Tour scene. I know the Warped Tour is over, but you know what I mean. Any, like, scene core music or whatever you want to call it since the disbanding of D.R.U.G.S back in I want to say 2015 or 2016. And honestly, there's been a void in the scene left by him, I want to say. I personally am a big fan of Craig Owens myself. I know some people are a little bit back and forth on him, but I love him personally. I think he's always been a force to be reckoned with. I think the old D.R.U.G.S albums are true fucking classics. Isles and Glaciers, that's classic shit. Cinematic Sunrise, classic shit. And even D.R.U.G.S' album, yes, say it with me, classic shit. And they're back. Let's get into it. I'm going to talk about sort of the band's history a little bit, give a little crash course on that, and then let's get into the new single they put out, King I Am, because it's cool shit. It's interesting. We're here to, I'm fucking stoked, and I'm here to fucking talk about it, because I'm the Cozy Representative, and that's what I do here on YouTube.com. Let's get into it. Alright, yes, so D.R.U.G.S, Destroy, Rebuild Until God shows, was a band that formed in late 2009, early 2010, following Craig Owens being kicked out of his previous band, D.R.U.G.S. Apparently within 36 hours of him being let go from D.R.U.G.S, producer John Feldman, Crush Management co-founder Jonathan Daniel, as well as Fall Out Boy's Pete Wentz, went on a conference call with Craig, giving him somewhat of an it gets better speech, and offered him a potential deal with Warner Brothers and Pete Wentz's label Decadence, with John Feldman producing a new band for Craig, consisting of somewhat of a supergroup of seasoned veteran musicians within the scene. After many auditions and considerations, the lineup of the band ended up being Craig Owens on vocals, Aaron Stern of Matchbook Romance on drums, Nick Martin of Underminded on guitar, Matt Good of From First to Last on guitar as well and vocals, and Adam Russell of Story of the Year on bass. Fun fact, some original contenders for the D.R.U.G.S lineup who, for whatever reason, didn't make the final cut were Armor for Sleep's Nash Breen, Thomas Eric of The Fall of Troy, Quinn Allman of The Used, Matt Rubano of Taking Back Sunday, and even Pete Wentz himself was an early contender. And just for the record, to cite my sources, I learned these fun facts from this April 2011 issue of Alternative Press with Destroy, Rebuild Until God shows on the cover. They were on the spring AP tour of that year, which I actually attended in person, and it was awesome. And it was cool. Versa Emerge played, Icy Stars played, and Blackville Brides were the headliners, and me and all my friends left before Blackville Brides because it was not cool to like Blackville Brides at the time, and leaving before their set was, to us, really fucking funny. But, respect to them. Hey, I'm not a hater. Anyways, finally, on February 22nd, 2011, the first D.R.U.G.S record, self-titled Destroy, Rebuild Until God shows, was released through Sire Records and Decadence Records, produced by John Feldman. Now, the first D.R.U.G.S album was an album that mixed, heavy breakdowns and screaming with catchy, clean vocals with pop sensibilities, and truly built on the strengths of the styles of music which were popular in the scene around that time, featuring some of the scene's best players, and in some cases, one of the scene's most iconic frontrunners, Craig Owens. This was an album and just a band in general that I personally absolutely loved at the time. I saw them on that AP tour. I also saw them on that summer's Warped Tour. We all know, by now, the only thing is on. And for me, they just hit the spot for me at the time, personally. I was a big fan. But however, it's an album that in some aspects I don't think has held up super well. I think it's a little bit stuck in the era it came from and is less timeless and maybe a little bit less impactful and game-changing than, say, the first two Chiodos records or some of the other records that some of the other, band members had been a part of previously before Drugs. However, in other aspects, it does still very much bang as an album, and I still view this as a very strong record with lots of memorable moments and a sense of intense ferocity throughout it. The last thing that this band did was release a very strong track entitled Scream If You're Crazy in early 2012 before breaking up that same year, and Craig Owens subsequently returned to his original band Chiodos. The band members have never really given a straightforward answer as to the real reason behind the breakup, but in certain interviews, certain band members have hinted at possible drama or clashing between personalities of certain members. On the podcast Lead Singer Syndrome, hosted by Silverstein frontman Shane Told, you may have heard this podcast in the past. It's great if you haven't heard it. Former Drugs guitarist Matt Good said the following regarding the band's breakup. Quote, "Just because of random details with personalities and things like that, it just ended up being one of those situations where it's just better that we stopped, because I feel like it was headed in a direction that, probably was unhealthy for everyone involved. You have to step back and look at your life from an objective point of view and say, is this good or is this not good? And really look at the whole big picture. And we decided as a group that it was better that we didn't do it anymore, so that was that." Interesting. Definitely holding some stuff back there. I'm sure there's some juicy details that we don't know about, but hey, that's none of my business. That's none of your business. If they want to talk about that, they can talk about that. Whatever. One thing I do know about Drugs is that, legally speaking, Craig Owens has all the rights to the name, and none of the other band members can take ownership of it or use the name without Craig being involved or Craig knowing about it in some way, shape, or form. A decision that was somewhat a reaction from Craig being kicked out of his band Chiodos, making it so that the other members of Drugs, couldn't band together and kick Craig out and do the band without him, so it won't be a repeat of the Chiodos situation. So legally speaking, Drugs is, I guess, technically a Craig Owens solo project, kind of in the same way that current Panic at the Disco is legally just Brendan, but there is still a band behind him. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, the last thing Drugs did was in 2012. The last thing they ever did was a breakup. I believe their Twitter account has been hacked a couple times, and there's been false rumors of them getting back together, but there's been no real activity since then. Until yesterday, the day before I'm filming this, February 24th, 2020, it started making the rounds on Twitter, as well as various news sites such as Alternative Press, that details of an alleged new Drugs single's artwork and details had been leaked on a Russian social media site called VK. On top of this, a new Instagram account for the band had recently been made, and Craig also made a brief anniversary post for their debut record just a few days ago. Interesting. I saw Craig post about it, and I also saw this new Instagram, and I was like, what could that mean? Is that, what's going on with that? I didn't know. And just earlier today, the day that I'm filming this, just a few hours ago, February 25th, 2020, Craig Owens dropped the first Destroy, Rebuild Until God Shows song in 9 years, entitled King I Am. It's Hype City, baby, strap in. In an interview with Forbes.com, also released today, Craig stated that by the end of Chiodos a few years ago, Craig was super exhausted and lost and depressed, and described himself as, quote, a shell of myself. He says he had to take the last few years to take control of his career and his life, and leave the spotlight for a minute. He basically needed to reset himself. He had been in the game for so long, since he was just a kid, you know what I mean? 18 years old, whatever, when Chiodos started. The dude needed a break, you know what I mean? I think that's very fair. We're all human. Sometimes we need to step back, and that's just exactly what Craig needed to do, and I'm proud of him for doing that, you know what I mean? You gotta take care of yourself first, your physical and your mental and all that. And it seems like that's what he did. He says that he misses the spotlight, or rather having that sense of precedence within the scene, but not for the fame or the money or any of that stuff, but for being able to communicate with the world and with the people who have supported him for so long is something that he misses. I miss communicating with you too, Craig Owens. Give me that sweet communicado. He claims that he's back and he feels good about himself, which is awesome, and he hopes that other people feel good about themselves too. And hopefully, he says, hopefully people use this song as a source of motivation, which is awesome. I'm glad Craig Owens is trying to spread the good vibes here in 2020 with a new Destroy Rebuild Until God Shows song. He says he is working on the next D.R.U.G.S album and that the song King I Am is indicative of what's to come from that sound. He says there also will be live shows and touring in the future. He also says that he will, quote, announce members later on, leading me to believe that none of the other former members of D.R.U.G.S will be involved. I'm not sure of that, but that's just my takeaway from this. That's my guess, which honestly is fine with me. I'm just glad that Craig Owens is back in the scene doing heavier music. I'm happy no matter what moniker he wants to put it out under. He's a voice that I missed and a void that has, in my opinion, been missing in the scene for years, and I'm very happy to hear him back and making heavier music again. The only thing that I would really be mad about is if he released music under the name Chiodos without any of the other original members, but obviously he's not doing that. I don't think he ever would do that. So I am fully supportive and all for new D.R.U.G.S music with motherfucking Craig at the helm. I'm pumped. Alright, so this new D.R.U.G.S song, King I Am. Let me talk about it. Here are my thoughts. Let's do some communicado between me and you, shall we? I had my communicado with me and Craig via the song. Now I'm going to tell you about what I think. So this song, King I Am, it's an adrenaline-fueled burst of energy and power. It feels anthemic as well as cathartic for Craig, and for the listener in the listening experience. The song kind of makes me want to rip shit up and fucking go crazy. You know, I think Craig really did hit the nail on the hammer with the motivational, powerful, and also anthemic aspects of this song. Now, compared to the older D.R.U.G.S material, this song has no, like, metalcore chugs, and it kind of has less of a pop sensibility, almost, I want to say, as the older stuff. You know, like I was saying, while their first record was great, I personally feel like it does sound a little bit stuck in the time period it came from, and I think Craig did a good job of kind of taking that sound that D.R.U.G.S honed in on, you know, 9 or 10 years ago or whatever, and kind of updating that to a more modern sound, but, and I'll get to this in a second, still different from the pack, and kind of bringing forth something new and something different than what a lot of people are doing. It sounds like an updated D.R.U.G.S, a modern D.R.U.G.S, but also a bit of a breath of fresh air into what's going on in rock music personally. Now, I'm gonna get into that a little bit. So the first time I heard this song, my very first initial reaction to it was that I kind of thought it sounded like a bit of a less corny, less like mainstream radio rock version of some of like Asking Alexandria's new stuff. You know what I mean? But the more I listen to this track, the more I realize that it is way heavier, way edgier, way more original, and straight up just way cooler than anything Asking Alexandria have released lately, or even Bring Me the Horizon, or any of those metalcore turned mainstream rock acts. In my eyes, this song, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm kind of bad at keeping up with like new music and shit, but this is just like, you know, from what I can tell, this song has a lot of elements that are good examples of things that are missing from modern rock music these days, as well as a lot of scene music too. I think a lot of things nowadays are a bit watered down and are a bit on the safe side and are a lot more, you know, the most recent song Asking Alexandria just dropped, it sounded like Fall Out Boy's most recent record, or like Panic at the Disco's most recent record, you know what I mean? And Bring Me the Horizon are full on that pop shit. Like, someone needs to bring the rock, the ferociousness, and that kind of seems like what Craig is doing with this song. It sounds a little bit adjacent with the active rock radio type stuff, hence the Asking Alexandria comparison, but it sounds a lot more ballsy and edgy. It sounds like what you wish that music was. Like, this is what I wish the new Asking Alexandria single was, you know what I mean? And I think that's just fucking awesome. I don't know, do you agree with that? Am I on the ball here, or am I not? That's my takeaway. Now, certain sections of the song are straightforward and catchy, however, the oftentimes chaotic, shouty, and intense vocals from Craig Owens make the track stand out, and show a side of Craig we haven't really seen before, except for maybe on his grindcore side project Beast. You know, obviously we've heard Craig Owens scream before, you know, I'm not saying that, but there's definitely more of a kind of a shout, kind of a yell, and kind of a different kind of aggressive, heavy style vocal that he's bringing to this song that I think is really awesome and really stands out and grabs you and makes you go, whoa, yeah, that's something different, not only from Craig, but from what other bands in the scene are doing right now. It's really cool. I can honestly say the more I listen to the song, the more I love it. Literally the first time I heard it, I wasn't sure about it. I didn't think it was bad, but like I said, I was literally just like, is this just some new Asking Alexandria modern rock radio type shit? But the more I listen to it, the more I love it. I realize that that's not true. It is way cooler and way more dope and badass than, you know, any of that mainstream rock shit that I've heard, or even a lot of the metalcore turned mainstream rock acts, whatever. But either way, I am very excited for more new D.R.U.G.S material. I'm stoked for this album. I'm stoked to maybe see them live. The last time I saw D.R.U.G.S live was literally 9 years ago. That's a long fucking time. And I guess the takeaway from this is that no matter what, I'm super stoked that Craig Owens is back, in the scene, making heavy music again. I feel you know, he definitely has his haters or just people who don't love his voice or whatever, but I'm a person who has always loved Craig Owens. Chiodos is a hugely meaningful band for me, and I loved D.R.U.G.S as well. Like I said earlier, I feel his absence has left a void in the scene, and I'm happy to see him back. I'm also happy that he's kind of, with this song, bringing a heavier, more ferocious side to heavy rock music that I feel I haven't really heard in a while, and I feel you know, the scene is begging for music like this, and more music like this to shake it up and you know, make it a little bit angrier, a little bit more edgier. Maybe Craig Owens will be the guy to do that, who knows? But either way, D.R.U.G.S is back. I'm stoked. Craig Owens is back. Thank you all for watching this video. Let me know if my thoughts on this song are also your thoughts. It's kind of weird and scary doing a song review, especially for a song that has been just released, that I also haven't really read anybody else's opinions of it, so I'm kind of a little bit self-conscious of am I completely off on my thoughts and views of this song? Who knows? Let me know. Let's have a discussion about it. Are you excited about D.R.U.G.S being back? Do you like this song? Let me know. Either way, thank you all for watching. I am Julian, aka the Cozy Representative. As always, I love ya, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out. Mwah. Bye.